The president announced a housing affordability policy this week aimed at institutional investors, and everyone is asking me about it. Before you react, the numbers are worth looking at. On the surface, it sounds great, but when you actually dig into the data and compare it to what I see on the ground here in Lower Fairfield County, it starts to fall apart a bit. In my real-world experience, selling homes in places like Norwalk, Wilton, Westport, Darien, and Stamford, I don't see a lot of institutional investors buying single-family homes. Do they exist? Sure. Do I see every transaction? Of course not. But when I do see all the offers that come in on my listings, and the number of LLCs compared to individual buyers is pretty low. And even when an offer is in an LLC, that doesn't automatically mean private equity or Wall Street. Very often, it's just a small investor or an individual using an LLC for liability reasons. And the national data actually supports that. According to Brookings, large institutional investors, defined as those owning over 100 homes, own about 3% of single-family rental stock nationwide. The Urban Institute puts it at just under 4%. Yes, investors bought about 27% of homes sold in early 2025, which sounds scary, until you realize that 85% of investors are owned by small investors, people who own fewer than 5 properties. And some portion of those homes are then flipped to new buyers anyway. Actual institutional investors, they're buying less than 2% of all homes, according to John Burns' research. So when people say corporations are driving the housing crisis, I understand that frustration, but the numbers just don't back that up, especially here in Connecticut. Which brings us to the real issue. This is an inventory problem. We don't have enough homes for sale, and we physically can't build fast enough to meet demand in Lower Fairfield County. We're land constrained, heavily regulated, and largely built out. And when you have buyers chasing limited inventory, prices don't fall. Regardless of interest rates, they rise. Now here's the irony. We are building. Everywhere you look, there's new construction. But what are we building? Mostly rentals. Apartments people can't buy, only rent. So if we actually want to help affordability and long-term stability, we should be talking about creating ownership opportunities, not just adding more rental units to the landscape. And certainly not by acting like banning these types of investors is going to make a dent in the issue. So to me, this policy feels more like a political talking point than a real solution. If the goal is truly to help buyers, Mr. President, then figure out how to add new homes to the market that people can buy. And please, for the love of God, be specific on how you roll out and describe your new policies. Without that, this feels like fluff. Housing affordability is a serious issue here in Connecticut, but it's a supply problem, not a headline problem. And until we focus on creating more homes people can actually buy and own, in this market, there's still going to be competition. And prices are still going to feel uncomfortably high.